Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Ben Beshear with LiveWell Capital, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT, CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I'm excited. We have the pleasure of speaking with Kon Leong, CEO of ZL Technologies. Kon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
So we're going to start off, we're going to go a little technical today because there's a lot to talk about in the data world, but we're going to start really simply and say, tell us how you got your start in the technology world, and then I'm going to ask some questions about the start of ZL.
If you're asking about ZL or me personally?
We'll start with you personally. That would be great.
Yeah, well, my first job was in IT, and I'll date myself here because we went through different nomenclatures. It started off as DP. For those of you who don't know that, it's data processing.
Yep.
And then it morphed into MIS, Management of Information Systems. And then sometime later, it became IT. So we went through these phases, I guess, but it's all the same thing.
And tell us about the founding of ZL and the entrepreneur's journey as the company was started, from where you started to what you do today.
We started off in secure messaging offered in the cloud, although at that time, the word cloud had not yet been invented for IT. And it was offering secure messaging where one person could send a message to another and not get hacked in between. This was, we thought, would be a great start for human communications securely. And you could communicate pretty much without being identified from either side. It was, I guess you could say, very much part of security. And it actually grew quite a bit until 9/11, which then mandated or issued the Patriot Act. And long story short, because of the Patriot Act stipulations, we pulled the plug on secure messaging services.
So only 2 years into the business, you pulled the plug on the primary function of the business.
Yes, because pursuant to the act, we were no longer able to assure our customers of total privacy.
And so how did you pivot from there? Obviously, you guys have made it work in a big way. How did you pivot from that point to where you are today?
It actually wasn't a pivot at all. It was a repositioning, but with the same platform of technology.
Okay.
What the technology did was track billions upon billions of items from start to finish, manage it through the life cycle. And that, by the way, is today called information management.
That's great. So you landed in the right spot, right?
Yes, the platform hasn't really changed in its direction, although it's obviously expanded and grow in scope and depth. But managing tens of billions of documents through its entire life cycle and comporting with all of the regulatory compliance, litigation obligations, that is in essence information governance. And if you add other things such as access restrictions, insights, analytics, then it is more like information management at large.
And what does the business look like today? I know you're describing it right now, but what does the business look like today? How big is the business? How broad is the business? Tell us a little bit about the business as it exists in 2022.
We currently supply technology to allow large enterprises to manage their obligations on unstructured information, unstructured being all of the textual data such as emails, files, the stuff in SharePoint, PDFs, what have you, voice, and even video. All of that is unstructured and very, very different from the likes of, let's say, SAP data or ERP data. And that is becoming a massive movement because doing all of this for, anytime there's a big event, a scandal, a crisis, people go for unstructured data. For example, the recent Secret Service issue, what do? They go for the SMS data.
Right.
The reason for that is because all of this unstructured data, emails, files, SMS, and so forth, social media, and so forth, they share one thing in common, all this data. It's all human generated.
Right.
And if you're able to gather all of it and manage it and extract insights from it, you've basically got the keys to the human side of your corporate kingdom. It augurs well for a brand new landscape to open up. For the last 8 decades, we focused on the management of structured data, which is systems data. You need good systems to run a company, but the human side was more or less ignored. And now is the time for catch up. In the future, I think you need both data, systems data and human data, in order to manage an enterprise well.
And so as you talk about, this leads well into our next question, as you talk about moving from structured data to unstructured data, what are the new governance concerns that are out there as you move to the complexity of dealing with humans, as you were mentioning? What are the complexities and concerns as that change occurs?
The content is very, very powerful because the human data, such as, for example, emails, calendars, and the like, it really nails down the classic one, who said what to whom and when. We can even go further than that because now we can even deduce intent at the time. This is basically the holy grail of sleuthing. And you can then apply it to corporate activity, and you've got a complete picture of your entire workforce. The power of this is still slowly kind of seeping into our consciousness. And the kind of questions that we can answer is just phenomenally impactful on corporate performance. For example, you have the great concern of the great resignation is of concern.
Right.
Well, what if you could somehow suss out which of your workforce are not quite happy or fulfilled? And if you can suss this out before they think about leaving the company, wouldn't that be a good time to then sit down with them and say, how can we better fulfill your career path?
That would be handy, right?
Absolutely. That's only one aspect of it. And the impact of this goes all the way up the ladder to from the rank and file to the board of directors, where they, for example, the board might be concerned with crisis management. Something hits from left field and they're scrambling around, and what they really need is all the data, all the relevant data, and timely data. That's been a pretty tough request to satisfy for the last 80 years of IT. Now it's possible that with a few clicks of a button, you can get to your answers within a few hours.
Right.
That is truly game-changing for handling crises. And that's the stuff that keeps boards of directors awake at night.
Absolutely. And as you think about how quickly things are evolving with unstructured data, how quickly are governance standards changing? Are they keeping up? Are they evolving? Give us an update on what's going on with governance.
Governance is piggybacking on the capabilities. Where there's a lot of potential value in all of the hidden insights, there will be governance to make sure that it doesn't get out of line, it doesn't escape the guardrails. However, this the amount of change, the advance of technologies, all of this change is actually posing a problem because most people find it difficult to assimilate and therefore difficult to get to good judgment calls. For example, you sometimes have to grapple with paradoxes and contradictions. How many people that have jumped on the privacy bandwagon understand that there's a certain contradiction in implementing privacy? The contradiction is that to deploy and assure privacy, you must intrude on privacy.
Right.
Because until you intrude and analyze and understand where all the data is, how can you implement privacy?
Right.
So the act of intrusion then poses another problem, which is more societal. In other words, all that impactful information is now ready to be gleaned by anyone, including authorities and what have you. Are there enough safeguards to make sure it doesn't fall in the wrong hands? And all through human history, we've had a problem with sustainable and responsible oversight. So there you have it, a full circle. Okay, now what do we do?
Kon, this has been a fun conversation today. So thank you to Kon Leong for joining me today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. This was a lot of fun today. Thank you, Kon.
Okay, thanks, Ben.